Hi everyone, it's me. Doing everything at the last minute like usual. Okay, so like usual, I'm just gonna grab my pizza and tea, wait for a couple people to arrive, and then we will start reading this book. I'll be right back. Hello. I'll be right there. Oh, Lord. Not again. Hello. Hello and welcome. As usual, I'm doing everything at the last minute. How's it going? Hope you're all good. There I am. I know. I said there was nobody here, I guess. So I went and I got my tea and I got my pizza. And I was just doing a few things. So let's welcome everybody. Welcome, Craven. Gladiator, welcome. Scott, welcome. Chris, welcome. Reptile with sad human eyes, welcome. I am well today. I hope you are well today. Hello, William. Welcome. Okay. So, let's just have a few bites to eat. I'm starving. I didn't get to eat today. Been running around doing a bunch of stuff. Feeling that today will be the day. Who gets banned? Okay. No, I mean, what do you mean I'm not sad anymore? Sad about what? Sad about how everyone's out to make $1 off the universal truth. Is that what you mean? Oh, well. I'm not lonely, clearly. I'm feeling fine. I'm online talking to you fine people. Okay. It's a Hawaiian pizza. I don't know if you can tell. Hawaiian pizza. I like that. Ham and pineapple. That's right. Oh, that's okay if you missed the start. Hey, Steven. Nah, I'm just doing random ones. It didn't really matter. I'm really grateful that you all showed up, but I'm just going to read this book. So, But yeah. This is one way I fight being alone. You know, hanging out online. One day, I will make real life friends. Like, that can be around. But for now, this is good. So, I don't know if you can hear that. You hear that construction or no? Well, you can't come over to my house, Stephen. Please don't take everything that I say so personally. You can't come over to my house. We can't play cards. We can't have a meal together. Sitting here past the pepper. This is a real life friend. Do you understand? That's what I mean. I'm not trying to offend anybody. But of course, oh yeah, my friends back here. If I had a big enough bed, I'd put them all on my bed, but they don't fit. Well, Gladiator, desire leads to suffering, and suffering lowers our consciousness. Lowers our vibration. So, yes. This book is by Rudolf Steiner, and it's on dream life, consciousness, and initiation. I believe it's an excerpt from a bigger book, but it's called Knowledge of the Higher Worlds, and it's Attainment. There's, I believe, a $30 book. It's much bigger. And it's a collection. So this is hello, Road Scholar, sorry. Deadeye Danny, hello. Random Blip, welcome back. Good to see you again. Well, you know, for your physical body, but suffering is more of a mental thing I'm talking about. Mental, emotional, which does affect your physical. Yeah, I agree, Chris. Nowadays, it's tough making friends because of fakeness and lack of common sense. Yeah, I agree. No, pain and suffering aren't two different things. I mean, it's about choosing where you want to be, right? For example, I could sit around, like I have in the past, feeling low and left out about how I'm not on the spaceships right now, or I haven't met these extra land dwellers. The craft that was above my building in 2017 hasn't come back. You know, I could sit here feeling, you know, lonely about the fact that I don't have anybody in my life anymore and all those things. Or I can focus on the fact that one day all of those things are going to be for me. You see what I'm saying? They already kind of are, because it exists in my future. I may not be able to see it now, but I will see it one day. That's faith. So, yeah, suffering can last longer because you choose to. Pain is temporary, like, ouch, now it's gone away. Suffering is temporary because we choose it to be. Hey, Jennifer. Welcome. Okay. Yeah. So I hope you understand what I mean by that, right? It's all about how you choose to think about it. Like, you know, yeah, sometimes I get sad about Elena and Claudio and them. But then I can just choose to think of it in a different way and turn it into a positive thing. All right. Like I said, I'm sorry I haven't eaten yet today, so I'm trying to go as fast as I can. And we'll just have a little chit chat. Okay. Well, tomorrow we're going to talk about the extra land dwellers and the breakaway civilizations. For tomorrow's live, I posted a bunch of reference videos underneath so that people can familiarize themselves with what I'd like to talk about. Salem's outside on the balcony. And Marvin's hanging out in my bedroom. Probably sitting in the window, looking outside. Okay. All right. Well, let's read the table of contents. So this is the preface to this edition from May 1918. It's quite old. So chapter 1 is, how is knowledge of the higher worlds attained? Chapter 2, the stages of initiation. Chapter 3, some practical aspects. Chapter 4, the conditions of esoteric training. Chapter 5, some results of initiation. Chapter 6, the transformation of dream life. Chapter 7, the continuity of consciousness. 7, the splitting of the human personality during human training. Yeah, I totally agree. Or during spiritual training. So the splitting of the human personality during spiritual training. Like I was saying, you have these 7 spiritual bodies that go along with your 7 chakras. At the end. Okay, I don't know if you can hear those noises. Well, yeah, this world does need intervention, but I think the ones that are going to do that is us. We're going to intervene. Okay. Right. And then it was 8, the guardian of the threshold, and 9, life and death, the greater guardian of the threshold. Okay. Preface to the edition of May 1918. In working over this new edition, I found only minor changes in its substance necessary, but I have added an appendix in which I have endeavored to explain more clearly the psychological foundations to which the disclosures contained in this book must be traced if they are to be accepted without risk of misunderstanding. I believe that the contents of the appendix will also serve to show many an opponent of anthroposophical crap. Sorry. Spiritual science, that is, judgment is based upon a misconception of the nature of this spiritual science, that he does not see what it really is. So basically, he was just trying to fix confusion. Okay. So I'm just going to skip to chapter 1, because there's like 3 prefaces to the book. Again, I put the link in the Telegram channel. You can buy this book. I got it off of Amazon. They print it there. Delightful. Are you ready? Okay. how is knowledge of the higher worlds attained? Conditions. There slumber in every human being faculties by means of which he can acquire for himself a knowledge of the higher worlds. Mystics, Gnostics, Theosophists all speak of a world of soul and spirit, which for them is just as real as the world we see with our physical eyes and touch with our physical hands. At every moment, the listener may say to himself, that of which they speak, I too can learn, if I develop within myself certain powers which today still slumber within me. There remains only one question: how to set to work to develop such faculties. For this purpose, they only can give advice who already possesses such powers. As long as the human race has existed, there has always been a method of training, in the course of which individuals possessing these higher faculties gave instruction to others who were in search of them, like I'm doing right now. Such a training is called occult esoteric training, and the instruction received therefrom is called occult esoteric teaching or spiritual science. This designation naturally awakens misunderstanding. The one who hears it may very easily be misled into believing that this training is a concern of a special privileged class, withholding its knowledge arbitrarily from its fellow creatures. He may even think that nothing of real importance lies behind such knowledge. That's why a lot of people steer away from Manly P. Hall, Rudolf Steiner, Helena Blavatsky, and people like this, because, they've been said like they're demon worshippers and stuff like that. The real importance lies behind such knowledge, for if it were a true knowledge, he is tempted to think there would be no need of making secret of it. It might be publicly imparted and its advantages made accessible to all. Those who have been initiated into the nature of this higher knowledge are not in the least surprised that the uninitiated should so think, for the secret of initiation can only be understood by those who have a certain degree experience this initiation into the higher knowledge of existence. The question may be raised: how, then, under these circumstances, are the uninitiated to develop any human interest in this so-called esoteric knowledge? How and why are they to seek for something of whose nature they can form no idea? Such a question is based upon an entirely erroneous conception of the real nature of esoteric knowledge. There is, in truth, no difference between esoteric knowledge and all the rest of man's knowledge and proficiency. This esoteric knowledge is no more of a secret for the average human being than writing is a secret for those who have never learned it. And just as all can learn to write who choose the correct method, so too can all who seek the right way to be sorry everybody. Seek the right way to become esoteric students and even teachers. In one respect, only do the conditions here differ from those that apply to external knowledge and proficiency. The probability of acquiring the art of writing may be withheld from someone through poverty or through the conditions of civilization into which he is born. But for the attainment of knowledge and proficiency in the higher worlds, there is no obstacle for those who earnestly seek them. Seek, and ye shall find the gateway. Many believe that they must seek at one place or another the masters of higher knowledge in order to receive enlightenment. Now, in the first place, whomever strives earnestly after higher knowledge will shun no exertion and fear no obstacle in his search for an initiate who can lead him into the higher knowledge of the world. On the other hand, everyone may be certain that initiation will find him under all circumstances if he gives proof of an earnest and worthy endeavor to attain this knowledge. Like invisible helper, like a guardian angel will come and help you and maybe even point you into the direction of looking at something on YouTube, give you an intuitive push or something like that, even through source. And when it says have no fear and just seeking out a teacher, like I said, if I hadn't even looked at Eric Dubay with his flower stuff, I would have never even paid attention to Claudio Nocelli's work, which led me to understand about the extraterrestrials, extra land dwellers, and this consciousness ascension and initiation. It is a natural law among all initiates to withhold from no man the knowledge that is due him, but there is an equally natural law which lays down that no word of esoteric knowledge shall be imparted to anyone not qualified to receive it. And the more strictly he observes these laws, the more perfect is the initiate. Well, who wants to be perfect anyway? The bond of union, embracing all initiates, is spiritual and not external. But the two laws here mentioned form, as if it were, strong clasps, by which the component parts of this bond are held together. You may live in initiate friendship with an initiate, and yet a gap severs you from his essential self. So long as you have not become an initiate yourself. Pardon me? You may live an initiate friendship with an initiate, and yet a gap severs you from his essential self. So long as you've not become an initiate yourself. You may enjoy in the fullest sense of heart the love of an initiate, yet he will only confide his knowledge to you when you are ripe for it. You may flatter him, you may torture him. Nothing can induce him to betray anything to you, as long as you, at the present stage of your evolution, are not competent to receive it in your soul in the right way. Hello, young good. This isn't a cult. It's just a really smart book. And if you don't understand it, I apologize. But I'm going to kick you out if you continue. Okay, William? You said this was the day you were going to get kicked out. Today it is. If you don't understand this is what it's talking about. You're just one of the ones that is not ready to receive it, which is why I knew this might be a little bit like cheating. But say goodbye, William. Laughing, immature man-child. Goodbye. Okay. Yeah, I did. I definitely threw butter at a man with a beer belly in one of my lucid dreams. This is pizza. I know. I'm eating it like a barbarian. The methods by which a student is prepared for the reception of higher knowledge are minutely prescribed. The direction he is to take is traced with unfading, everlasting letters in the worlds of the spirit where the initiates guard the higher secrets. In ancient times, anterior to our history, the temples of the spirit were also outwardly visible. Today, because our life has become so unspiritual, they are not to be found in the world visible to external sight, yet they are present spiritually everywhere, and all who seek may find them. I knew this book was going to be good. Only within his own soul can a man find the means to unseal the lips of an initiate. He must develop within himself certain faculties to a definite degree, and then the highest treasures of the spirit can become his own. He must begin with a certain fundamental attitude of soul. In spiritual science, with this fundamental attitude is called the path of veneration, of devotion to truth and knowledge. Without this attitude, no one can become a student. The disposition shown in their childhood by subsequent students of the higher knowledge is well known to the experienced in these matters. There are children who look up with religious awe to those whom they venerate. For such people, they have a respect which forbids them, even in the deepest recesses of their heart, to harbor any thought of criticism or opposition. Such children grow up into young men and women who feel happy when they are able to look up to something that fills them with veneration. From the ranks of such children are recruited many students of the higher knowledge. Have you ever paused outside the door of some... Wait, lost my place. Venerated person, and have you, on this your first visit, felt a religious awe as you pressed on the handle to enter the room for you, which is a holy place? If so, a feeling has been manifested within you, which may be the germ of your future adherence to the path of knowledge. It is a blessing for every human being in process of development to have such feelings upon which to build. Only it must not be thought that this disposition leads to submissiveness and slavery. What was once a childlike veneration for persons becomes later a veneration for truth and knowledge. Experience teaches that they can best hold their heads erect who have learnt to venerate where veneration is due. And veneration is always fitting when it flows from the depths of the heart, like a yearning to know. I guess things here make you so desperate, it gets you to seek elsewhere for the answers. For truly enlightened people understand that none of this is important. Well, it is, because some people need the science of it. You can just go on with that and just do whatever. I don't care, but this is important to me. I've tried their nasal rinse before. I have an ear, nose, and throat thing. I have to be a specialist. Hello, mixed media art girl. Yeah. Well, a truly, truly enlightened person would know that they didn't even need to say that. They should have kept it to themselves. So, take that. Okay. Meow. Come here, Marvin. You're not going outside. If we do not develop within ourselves this deeply rooted feeling that there is something higher than ourselves, we shall never find the strength to evolve to something higher. The initiate has only acquired the strength to lift his head to the heights of knowledge by guiding his heart to the depths of veneration and devotion. The heights of the spirit can only be climbed by passing through the portals of humility. You can only acquire right knowledge when you have learnt to esteem it. Man has certainly the right to turn his eye to the light, but he must first acquire this right. There are laws in the spiritual life, as in the physical life. Rub a glass rod with an appropriate material and it will become electric. That is, it will receive the power of attracting small bodies. This is in keeping with the law of nature. It is known to all who have learnt a little physics. Similarly, acquaintance with the first principles of spiritual science shows that every feeling of true devotion harbored in the soul develops a power which may, sooner or later, lead further on the path of knowledge. Seek and ye shall find. The student who is gifted with this feeling, or who is fortunate enough to have had it inculcated in a suitable education, brings a great deal along with him when, later in life, he seeks admittance to higher knowledge. No! Come here, Reverend. Failing such preparation, he will encounter difficulties at the very first step unless he undertakes by rigorous self-education to create within himself this inner life of devotion. In our time, it is especially important that full attention be paid to this point. Our civilization tends more toward critical judgment and condemnation than toward devotion and selfless veneration. Our children already criticize for far more than they worship. But every criticism, every adverse judgment passed, disperses the powers of the soul for the attainment of higher knowledge in the same measure that all veneration and reverence develops them. In this, we do not wish to say anything against our civilization. There is no question here of leveling criticism against it. To this critical faculty, this self-conscious human judgment, this test all things and hold fast which is best, we owe the greatness of our civilization. Man could never have attained to the science, the industry, the commerce, the rights relationships of our time had he not applied to all things the standard of his critical judgment. But what we have thereby gained in external culture, we have had to pay for with a corresponding loss of higher knowledge of spiritual life. It must be emphasized that higher knowledge is not concerned with the venerations of persons, but the veneration of truth and knowledge. Hey, Jay. Come here, Marvin. Come here, baby. Come see Mom. Come here. Come here, Marvin. Now, the one thing that everyone must acknowledge is the difficulty for those involved in the external civilization of our time to advance to the knowledge of the higher worlds. They can only do so if they work energetically at themselves. At a time when the conditions of material life were simpler, the attainment of spiritual knowledge was also easier. Objects of veneration and worship stood out in clearer relief from the ordinary things of the world. In an epoch of criticism, ideals are lowered. Other feelings take place of veneration, respect, adoration, and wonder. Our own age thrusts these feelings further and further into the background. Sorry, I lost my place. So that they can only be conveyed to man through this everyday life in a very small degree. Whoever seeks higher knowledge must create it for himself. He must instill it into his soul. It cannot be done by study. It can only be done through life. Whoever, therefore, wishes to become a student of higher knowledge must assiduously cultivate this inner life of devotion. Everywhere in his environment and his experiences, he must seek motives of admiration and homage. If I meet a man and blame him for his shortcomings, I rob myself of power to attain higher knowledge, like to learn from that person. But if I try to enter lovingly into his merits, I gather such power. The student must continually be intent upon following this advice. The spiritually experienced know how much they owe to the circumstance that in the face of all things, they ever again turn to the good and withhold adverse judgment. But this must not remain an external rule of life. Rather, it must take possession of our innermost soul. Man has it in his power to perfect himself and, in time, completely to transform himself. But this transformation must take place in his innermost self, in his thought life. That's why I was saying thoughts become things. You literally create yourself on the inside first before it manifests to the outside. It is not enough that I show respect only in my outward bearing. I must have this respect in my thoughts. The student must begin by absorbing this devotion into his thought life, like how you think. He must be wary of thoughts of disrespect, of adverse criticism existing in his consciousness, and he must endeavor straightway to cultivate thoughts of devotion. Unconditionally loving thoughts, I guess. Positive ones. Every moment that we set ourselves to discover in our consciousness whatever there remains in it of adverse, whatever there remains in it of, disparaging and critical judgment of the world and of life, every such moment brings us nearer to the higher judgment. So just not judging the world like critically and negatively, to go away from that. And we rise rapidly when we fill our consciousness in such moments with thoughts invoking us in admiration, respect, and veneration for the world and for life. It is well known to those experienced in these matters that in every such moment, powers are awakened which otherwise remain dormant. In this way, the spiritual eyes of man are opened. That's why everyone's got the all-seeing eye. He begins to see things around him which he could have not seen before. Oh, I guess meaning everybody has these little keys, and it's almost like turning the pages of the book of understanding, which each of us has within ourselves. Like each of us understands differently. You're at different chapters of this understanding. We come from a different bubble, which is something you don't understand yet. That's what one of those extra land dwellers said to somebody. We come from a different bubble, which is something you just don't understand yet. And so I guess that everything that you come across of like how I started at David Wilcock and then moved on to all these people learning different things from each of them. He begins to understand that hitherto he had only seen a part of the world around him. A human being standing before him now presents a new and different aspect. Yeah. Different perspectives of a universal truth. Oh shit, I might be the one cheating. um a human being standing before him now presents a new and different aspect. Of course, this rule of life alone will not enable him to see, for instance, what is described as the human aura, because for this, still higher training is necessary. But he can rise to his higher training if he has previously undergone a rigorous training in devotion. In the last chapter of his book, Theosophy, the author describes fully the path of knowledge. Here it is intended to give some practical details. Like a superhero, I'm adding that part in. Noiseless and unnoticed by the outer world is the treading of the path of knowledge. No change need be noticed in the student. He performs his duties, and hitherto he attends to his business as before. The transformation goes on only in the inner part of the soul, hidden outward from sight. At first, his entire inner life is flooded by this basic feeling of devotion for everything which is truly venerable. His entire soul life finds in this fundamental feeling its pivot. Just as the sun's rays vivify everything living, so does reverence in the student. No. It is not easy at first to believe that feelings like reverence and respect have anything to do with cognition. This is due to the fact that we are inclined to set cognition aside as a faculty by itself, one that stands in no relation to what otherwise occurs in the soul. In so thinking, we do not bear in mind that is the soul which exercises the faculty of cognition, and feelings are for the soul what food is for the body. Ooh. If we give the body stones in place of bread, its activity will cease. It is the same with the soul. Veneration, homage, and devotion are like nutriment, making it healthy and strong, especially strong for the activity of cognition. Disrespect, antipathy, underestimation of what deserves recognition all exert a paralyzing and withering effect on this faculty of cognition. For the spiritually experienced, this fact is visible in the aura. Oh, that's why I got so sick after I got so mad. A soul which harbors feelings of reverence and devotion produces a change in its aura. Certain spiritual colorings, as they may be called, yellow, red, and brown, red in tone, vanish and are replaced by blue-red tints. Thereby, the cognitional faculty is ripened. It receives intelligence of facts in its environment of which it had hitherto no idea. Reverence awakens in the soul a sympathetic power through which we attract qualities in the beings around us, which would otherwise remain concealed. I'm always drinking tea. I drink coffee. Just so you know. The power obtained through devotion can be rendered still more effective when life of feeling is enriched by yet another quality. This consists in giving oneself up less and less to impressions of the outer world and to develop instead a vivid inner life. That's why it's kind of good sometimes to become a bit of a hermit, to kind of leave that world out there and focus on the one in here. A person who darts from one impression of the outer world to another, who constantly seeks distraction, cannot find the way to the higher knowledge. The student must not blunt himself to the outer world, but while leading himself to its impressions, he should be directed by his rich inner life. When passing through a beautiful mountain district, the traveler with depths of soul and wealth of feeling has different experiences from one who is poor in feeling. Only what we experience within ourselves unlocks for us the beauties of the outer world. One person sails across the ocean, and only a few inward experiences pass through his soul. Another will hear the external language of the cosmic spirit. For him are unveiled the mysterious riddles of existence. Ooh. We must learn to remain in touch with our own feelings and ideas if we wish to develop an intimate relationship with the outer world. The outer world, with all its phenomena, is filled with splendor. But we must have experienced the divine within ourselves before we can hope to discover it in our environment. The student is told to set apart moments in his daily life in which to withdraw into himself quietly and alone. He is not to occupy himself in such moments with the affairs of his own ego. This would result in the contrary of what is intended. He should rather let his experiences and the messages from the outer world re-echo within his own completely silent self. As such silent moments, every flower, every animal, every action will unveil to him secrets undreamt of. And thus he will prepare himself to receive quite new impressions of the outer world through quite different eyes. The desire to enjoy impression after impression merely blunts the faculty of cognition. The latter, however, is nurtured. However, is cognition. The latter, however, is nurtured and cultivated if the enjoyment once experienced is allowed to reveal its message. Thus, the student must accustom himself not merely to let the enjoyment reverberate, as it were, but rather to renounce any further enjoyment and work upon the past experience. The peril here is very great. Instead of working inwardly, it is very easy to fall into the opposite habit of trying to exploit the enjoyment. Let no one underestimate the fact that immense sources of error here confront the student. He must pass through a host of tempters of his soul. They would all harden his ego and imprison it within himself. He should rather open it wide to all the world. It is necessary that he seek enjoyment, for only through enjoyment can the outer world reach him. If he blunts himself to enjoyment, he is like a plant which cannot any longer draw nourishment from its environment. Yet if he stops short at the enjoyment, he shuts himself up within himself. He will only be something to himself and nothing to the world. However much he may live within himself, however intensely he may cultivate his ego, the world will reject him. To the world he is dead. The student of higher knowledge considers enjoyment only as a means of ennobling himself for the world. Enjoyment is to him like... Hello. Hi, Lexi. Enjoyment is to him like a scout informing him about the world. But once instructed by enjoyment, he passes on to work. He does not learn in order to accumulate learning as his own treasure, but in order that he may devote his learning to the service of the world. In all spiritual science, there is a fundamental principle which cannot be transgressed without sacrificing success, and it should be impressed on the student in every form of esoteric training. It runs as follows: all knowledge pursued merely for the enrichment of personal learning and the accumulation of personal treasures. All knowledge pursued merely for the enrichment of personal learning and accumulation of personal treasure leads you away from the path. But all knowledge pursued for growth to ripeness within the process of human ennoblement and cosmic development brings you a step forward. This law must be strictly observed, and no student is genuine until he has adopted it as a guide for his whole life. The truth can be expressed in the following short sentence: every idea which does not become your ideal slays a force in your soul. Every idea which becomes your ideal creates within you life forces. Inner Tranquility is page 12. And I think we're just going to stop there for now. That's 12 pages. Well, whatever. We've gotten to page 12. But my voice is a bit sore. And this is certainly really interesting. And yeah, I'm a bit of a hermit too. I like to stay inside, although I do try to go out and get fresh air and sunshine every day, which is something I'd like to do. And it's almost 3:30 and I haven't gotten to do that yet. So I will find a bookmark. I don't have one right now. And we will start again on our next live at page 12 and continue on from there. I'm really sorry I shot you down in flames, Stephen. I apologize. Yeah. It was just all day. It was like posting that video about the Asuras was difficult for me anyway, because I knew what kind of reaction I was going to get. And I couldn't find like the source of it, even after all that time. And I don't know how to use like AI. That's how somebody helped me. They helped me by using AI to search the internet for stuff with that. So, yeah, so it turned out to be like a B movie, but I still stand by what I said, that was the closest thing that's ever, looked anything like what I saw. So, I mean, it gave me like this visual kind of a relief to let me know like that I wasn't as crazy as I fucking felt, So, yeah. Well, I was born in 1985. Well, I mean, you might want to get out there a little bit, even going to parks and different places. Sometimes Source has missions for us, just to talk to somebody out there that's out and about. They need a kind word. Sometimes I'll just do that, just smile at people, wave, say hello. It just helps the world become a little bit brighter for some individuals. That's what it talks about in Dolores Cannon's books about the volunteers of souls, and that, a lot of us that were put here to help raise the vibration of humanity have been so traumatized that all of us are staying inside. So we have to try to bust out of our shells a little bit, because, like I can go out and joke around and tell funny things, to people. I just think of stuff sometimes, make people laugh and things like that. So, there's no fantasies. This is a book. I don't know if you know anything about philosophy and theosophy and stuff like that. These might be topics that are over your head, Josh. So that's okay. You can excuse yourself out of the chat. No, this isn't fiction. It has to do with things that you just don't understand. So maybe you should just leave. You're not smart enough. No, you're just not smart enough, hon. Low intelligence. Little brain. Why don't you go and watch yourself a Hollywood movie there? Then if you're not interested here, you can go and see Defending Your Life. It's from 1991. Meryl Streep's in it and a couple other famous actors. That might help. But you don't need to be here. I don't care how much you get paid. I get paid $300K a year. I don't care how much you get paid. You could be the king of fucking England and I would still talk to you this way. Piss off. Good. Okay. Now we've had a wonderful afternoon. Delusional. Okay. Well, you can go on a timeout like the child that you are. Go on then, little boy. Away with you. I make $300K a year. No one cares. There. And with that, I thank you all for being here with me. I hope you enjoyed this little reading. I know it's not as long as I usually go for, but we're going to meet again tomorrow around the same time. I hope you enjoy your day, that you eat well and care for yourself. If you do anything, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. If you're feeling depressed and you're dealing with those type of things, just make sure even that, take a nice shower or a bath, feed yourself something good, rest. I'm glad that you've sat here with me and listened to a bit of this reading. Do stuff that's good for your heart and soul. Don't force yourself to go out in the world and drive yourself crazy if that's not what you need. Sunshine's always good. If you've got a balcony, go sit on it. Remember to drink water. If you don't necessarily like water, try adding lemon or lime slices to it. It makes it much better. And yeah, so I'll see you all again tomorrow. I know, Lexi, you can just rewind and watch from the beginning if you want. And again, I'm going to meet with you all tomorrow where we're going to talk more about breakaway civilizations. And I just need to refresh some of the stuff that Billy Carson talks about, because I'm pretty sure at one time I saw him talk about beings coming from inside the sun, and that leads back to initiation. Yeah, it's the little things that count, that make every day just a little bit more better and bearable. So with that, I'm going to go outside. Marvin is sleeping, but he wishes you a good day from his dreamland, and we love you, and we thank you for being here. Me and my babes, my two fluffy babes, Salem and Mr. Or not Mr. Marvin. Whoops, getting old. Yeah. Thanks for being here. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. Take care, everybody. Have a good night. See you tomorrow.